everyone, welcome to Good Enough Stuff. My name is Alexi, and today we're going to look at something I bought from AliExpress that caught my eye. Basically look at things that I feel would be interesting to me on AliExpress. And this one looked kind of useful, a little interesting, so I picked it up. I ordered a couple weeks ago a Endoscope camera, basically that works with either your laptop or an Android phone. I'm going to be trying it on my phone. The seller said that it should be compatible. It comes in 3 variants, a 1 meter, a 2 meter, and a 3.5 meter. I bought the 2 meter version. So we'll open it up and then we'll talk a little bit about it. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Says, let me see if I can get this to focus. So we got HD camera, see what you can't see and touch. So yeah, basically we're gonna put this through the test a little bit. But before we get into what's inside the box, I'm gonna go a little bit through the introduction that the seller gave about the product on their page. Latest arrival model for Android, can take photo, video, and sound recording. And the photos and video file will directly stored in your Android mobile phone. The whole process of record check, convenient observation, and follow-up analysis. There's also a turning wheel used for adjust the brightness of 6 LED lights so that work in some area without enough light. It is IP67 waterproof camera with micro to USB line. It can also be used for computers. Another thing to note is that the back of the box provides a QR code for an app that pairs the device that we will look into later. Obviously, it is an unknown source installation and there's no iPhone app. First things first, we see the camera. We'll look into that in more detail in a little bit. There's a manual inside the box, but it gives no actual useful information, just instructions on how to install the app, as well as basic specs provided on the store page. There's an OTG male-to-male cable to connect it to your computer for use as a crappy webcam. There's a small baggie with all the attachments, the 90-degree view mirror, hook, and magnet. There is also a CD which contains some sketchy-looking APKs, some random viewer software for your PC, and most concerning of all, a file that has a .exe extension, but is named like an APK. I will not be trying that out, and after seeing that, I'll definitely be setting my phone on airplane mode after I install the app. The hardware controls are extremely basic. There's a button to take a picture and a wheel to increase and decrease the surrounding LED brightness. Using your preferred QR code reading app, you'll find a direct link to the APK, which will instantly download it. Making sure you have unknown sources checked in your settings, you can tap to download to install the app named AN97, which I think turned out to be the manufacturer of the camera. It only asks for obvious permissions, the only particular one being finding accounts on the device. But I later found out that it's because you have to pay extra to remove their watermark from the media it captures. I didn't click to find out the pricing, but regardless, I shouldn't be expected to pay for watermark-free recordings on something I've already paid for. Once installed, you don't actually need to open the app manually. Whenever you plug in the camera, the app automatically opens, which I thought was pretty neat. The app's UI is very simple. There's a record video, capture image, and gallery button on the right, and on the left, there's a button which expands further when pressed for rotation controls. From here, we can rotate the feed right, left, 180 degrees, as well as flip the image horizontally and vertically. There isn't much more in the settings menu. It gives you an option to select video size, but there's no other options other than the default. You can change the video feed view from fit to screen to fit to video, which reduces some of the zooming and cropping effect. It also gives you the option to record audio using the phone's mic. Taking a quick look at the LEDs, we see that they are pretty great. Here's a closer look at just scrolling the control wheel high and low. This could definitely help light up dark areas like a drain pipe. In bright situations, this camera obviously won't be replacing your phone camera. As you can see behind the annoying watermark, when taking pictures and video in lit areas, the subject becomes washed out and everything is blurry. But this is not what the camera is made for. It's tuned to be in places where there's presumably little to no light. So let's move on to a test. My first test just involves a coin at the bottom of the hole created by a rolled up yoga mat. I wanted to try a dry test first, in case the camera breaks when it gets wet. But instantly, I ran into a problem. Due to the packaging of the camera tip has a bend to it, so whenever I tried to push it down in the hole, it would curl up and get stuck to the edge, rendering it useless. I assume over time, allowing the wiring and sleeving to straighten will alleviate this problem, but for current testing purposes, I taped it to a stick to force it straight and continued my tests. And at the bottom of the dark hole, it does the job rather well with the help of LEDs. Notice the difference with them on and off. Without all the sunlight and the element it's designed for, it does the job pretty well for the price. Now that we've gotten a taste for the camera itself, let's take a closer look at a few of the attachments. The magnet and the grabbing hook are attached the same way. First, you place the rod of the instrument you want to attach into the small groove of a plastic ring provided. Then, while holding it in the groove, slide the two together onto the head of the camera, firmly. This can be a little tricky and annoying the first few times, at least it was for me, but you eventually get used to the motions. There's a small hump at the end of the stick to prevent it from sliding out of the groove. Here's the view you get with the magnet on the camera. Another attachment is the mirror. This mirror allows you to get a 90-degree view in tight situations where the camera does not have room to bend. This one is much easier to attach. The tip of the camera and the mirror attachment are threaded, so you just screw it in. Take a look at the example video. You can see the Charizard figure even though the camera is aimed down. One thing to note is that if the glass isn't clean on the mirror, you will have a degraded image. Let's take a quick look into the laptop software. As shown, installation was extremely straightforward, with a very simple installer. The reward for your menial efforts is menial software. All it has in terms of buttons is the camera source select, capture photo, capture video, and an extremely disappointing settings menu. How can a settings menu be disappointing, you ask? Because it starts to paint the picture of the real quality of this camera. The maximum recording output on PC was limited to the same 640 by 480 as on the phone, a complete lie from the manual which stated 720p quality on PC. According to the file details, it would seem that at least it does record on 30 FPS promised, but psych, that's also a big fat lie. The produced video quality speaks for itself and looks like it's 15 frames per second at most. But let's not let that hamper our judgments. It still does work for its main purpose, to get a live view of tight places. But after seeing that, I was hesitant to get it fully soaked, so before attempting to fully submerge the camera into water, I wanted to ease it in. So I used the kitchen sink after running the faucet for a while to create a moist environment. And it handled that environment fine. You can see the disposal and a Cheerio. However, this test did shed light on a problem. In moist environments with water droplets, the drops of water tend to roll down the head of the camera and onto the lens, and stay there, due to the slight lip and lack of any hydrophobic coating, unsurprisingly for this quality and price point I might add. This is a somewhat major design flaw depending on your use for the Snake camera. With that, I made a quick setup for a submerged test: the camera, an opaque cup full of water, and the coin. And with that, I put the camera in. And it worked very well, and continued to work the whole time I left it in there. As you can see, the coin is clearly visible with the LEDs on. The more I played around with it in the dark and the water, I began to warm up to the AN97. Sure, it lied about its quality on the computer, but so what? For $10 it's been doing half its main function rather well, being portable with my phone and having a good enough quality to get a shot in the dark to find something that might be lost in a tight area or drain pipe. But unfortunately, that's all it got. It couldn't do the other half of its main function, snake through a pipe. My next test was going to show it curve through a sink pipe, But right at the bend, I heard a faint crack and the feed stopped, the footage didn't save, and that was it for this little camera. Just as I was warming up to it, it had let me down again. On top of all of this, when I saved the footage I recorded to my computer, the file details showed that it wasn't even 30 frames per second. And on top of that, every time I recorded, the FPS got a little slower and slower. So, at the end of the day, is it worth saving $10 versus getting the #1 bestseller on Amazon? No.